Hello everyone, this is my second model from this designer, and I'm going to say something. I found a part that did not fit very well. This little skirt around here was flared out. Now that could be the designer's fault, it could have been the day I printed it, the humidity, who knows. But I had to really clamp it down to get it to glue, and even then this side of this one is loose. This one's pretty solid. It popped off on one of them, and I was afraid. You know, when you put glue down twice on a plastic part, it tends not to work well. All right, so what I have here at this point is I have the lower feet together. This is from the knee downwards. It is missing a screw in the back here, and I need to find that screw. It says it's screw E, and it looks like it's this screw right here. I had to print a new set of screws, okay? And if it's not this one, then it's this one. I had to print a new set of screws because I didn't realize, yeah, it's this one right here. I didn't realize that, oh, that does stiffen that up quite a bit. That's a good thing. I didn't realize that I needed to print two of each. So I only printed one. On the other one, I had directions that stated print one, print two when it came to certain parts. This one I did not have those directions. Okay? So it's been a little on the fun side. I have 3 large bins of parts for this thing that I need to go through and clean up and work on. And I'm looking for screws right now in some of these bins. This thing is just big. And one of my daughters just commented today, "Where are you putting this thing?" And I told her outright, I am not sure where I'm putting this thing. So I found the other screw for this foot, another bin. Let's see if that tightens that up too. Oh yeah, it tightens it up a lot. That's what those screws are designed for. He also puts in the directions that if you want to tighten these things up better, to use some clear fingernail polish. Okay? And oh, there's that third bin. I don't have any, so tomorrow I'm going to have to leave the house and go get some. It's okay, Mr. Big Ears becomes just Big Ears. He loses a Mr. part tomorrow. So everyone say a prayer for him that he will survive that. I know he will survive it. But he's starting to show some male tendencies. And I don't know if anyone knows that. You don't really want a male cat wandering around your house. They tend to mark their territory, and your house doesn't appreciate that much. All right, so what I'm going to do next on this guy is I have got the tail done. I'm not doing the shoulder or arm cannons just yet. That'll be the last thing I do. I need to print the fire effects that come with it yet. And that means changing out a bunch of filament in the printer, because I got a bunch of clear filament, some red, some blue, some green, some other things, and some clear, and I want to see how that works. I've got the feet, I want the upper legs, and I want the waist done today if I can, so I'm looking for the waist. And it is in various different places on this thing. All right, found it. All right, now what I mean by that is if we take a look at our directions, here's the start point of the waist, and then it jumps over here, and jumps over here, and then jumps down here, and yeah, and then over here where it attaches to the torso, and down here we have the upper part of the leg, and how it attaches into there. So the directions aren't real great, but they're easy enough to follow. Okay, so I'm going to start with step 4. We've already done steps 1, 2, and 3. I'm not following them in any specific order, following however I want. I really want to build him from the feet upwards, so he supports himself as I go. So let me get the 3 parts for this together. They're big, because the waist on this guy is big. That's one of them. The other one was that big tail part I was showing a little while ago. And I don't know what's happened to it. We'll find it. It is here. And the third one is a big red part, which I'm pretty sure I have in my hands right now, which needs almost no cleanup. Yep. The third one is this one. It does need a little bit cleanup along here, but that deburring tool is going to make quick work of that. So I just have to find that one tail piece, which should have been out in the open. Mr. Biggs is in here helping. Hopefully he doesn't pull what Jam does, my other young cat, and get in the camera for us, which can be kind of annoying. I found it. It was buried on the floor behind some stuff. So we're starting with these three big pieces right here. Okay? Sorry I'm not doing great with camera work. It's been a while since I've done this. I mean, literally, it has been a bit. All right, so the red part, this is up for this part. We're off camera. This is up, pointing up. The way my finger's pointing is up. This red part, which I'm going to have to do some cleaning on the bottom of, slides into this thing. It looks like I got it upside down. And there it goes. Slides into this thing like that. Okay, and I'm pretty sure these are the leg joints. We are off camera. I'm such a bad video person. Hey, that's not new. I've always been a bad video person. I always struggle with keeping everything centered on the camera. Okay, let me get these big feet out of here. I can put them down on the floor. Hey, you, quit eating the wire. I got some Christmas fairy lights, and Mr. Biggs is quickly tangling himself up in it. All right, so this part slides in the bottom like this. And then this big part, one of the biggest parts I've ever printed, slides on like that. And there's part of his waist. Okay, that's the size of, it's not a basketball size, but it's getting there. So I'm going to glue these three parts together and go work on the thighs and let them sit for a bit. And I got to clean up the red part first. I'm not going to do that on camera. I'm going to go ahead and pause the camera. I cleaned this part up yesterday for the most part, so it's not too bad. It's got a few sharp points on it here and there, but the upper torso is going to sit on this. And here's the shell for the upper torso. So when that's sitting on there, you're really not going to be feeling those parts. And there is armor that goes around the outside of this. Okay, so we are good with that. I don't think I'm going to get really sharp edge problems on this. So I'll come back in a little bit once I've cleaned up the red part. I've glued it. I'll start working on the thighs. You've seen how these snap together. Real simple. Back in a bit. While I'm letting that cure, I started working on the cod piece, so to speak. This has some rough printing on its edges and stuff. And it's due to the orientation when it printed. And I look at it, and after having some experience with this, it could print that way. But I don't know if that would really clean up this real rough pattern right along these edges. Okay, it printed this way. And the rough pattern is just due to how it has to fill these corners as it's printing upwards. And if I were to do it this way, I don't know. There'd have to be supports inside here where these parts go. And right now there is no supports inside there. The way it printed, printing it this way doesn't need the supports. You print it this way, it's going to need all sorts of supports because inside of these parts are hollow for other parts to slide into. Okay? So I don't know if I can change the orientation of that part and print it better. One thing I could do is I could spend some time with some filler and fill it and clean it up. I don't know if I want to do that on this guy. He's big enough as it is. There are some print flaws on this piece. I don't want to reprint this piece. In other words, I'm being lazy and don't want to do it. I'm just admitting to it. And also trying to convince myself, hey, you know, just be lazy. It's okay. All right, it is my model. I will do it the way I want. One thing about this is not going to end up in a model show. It's not going to end up in a hobby show. This is something to go on a shelf to have people, when people walk in the room it's in, and they're going to go, oh my gosh, what the heck is that? That's what this is. They're not going to look at it that tightly, I don't think. Anyone who builds models walks in, they're immediately going to go over and look at it and go, oh my God, that's horrible. How did you leave that like that? So it depends on who you're talking to. And that's honest. I'm just going to take some glue. I'm going to slap it down in this groove pretty heavily. I've been pretty heavy with the glue, and I shouldn't, because I get it all over the edge like I did right there. And that will show up later. Okay? Just like getting a fingerprint with Tamiya extra thin. That does show up, and you can't remove it. And if you look at it, you can see where I got that glue. And I was bad. I got just a little too much glue in there. And I just decided I'd best test fit these parts before I start gluing them together. Because, yep, I try to put the wrong part in the wrong part. It ain't going to work right. Something's going to go. Something's going to give. So I had better have them all set up correctly beforehand with correct orientation. And before I apply glue to this one, I better make sure I know which way it goes. See? And I was about to put it in backwards. And we don't need that. See, now it's in there right. I just have to remember the rough pattern. The pattern I really don't want showing, it goes upwards. Isn't that how it works? What you don't want in life is what goes upwards. Okay? And there that goes. I think I'm going to put the red piece in this one first before I stick it in there. And I'm starting to get to the point where that glue just is not, that brush is just not going to work. And I should go to Hobby Lobby tomorrow since they will be open. We don't have a Hobby Lobby in this town. No hobby shops. No nothing. We had a hobby shop. He died. He couldn't get his footing. And this is not a big town. It was pre-COVID. Had he been open during COVID, probably would have survived just fine because everything shifted. People shifted their focus around. And I know that model building took off quite a bit during non-COVID, at the end of COVID. Because people sat at home and did nothing. Played video games. Oh, I got it on my hands. You don't want to get this glue on your hands. It took some of my skin off yesterday. And my daughters were looking at that going, what the heck did you do to your hand? And I told them, and they're like, no, bad. Wash your hands right away. Yeah, I can wash my hands right away, but it doesn't change what is going to happen with the chemical reaction. It has already taken place. I really ought to get a different brush for this. But I'm late. I'm impatient. I want this done tonight. I want to see what this is going to look like. I want these legs on this behemoth. The tail and the legs, the lower half done. I'm not trying to rush and get his chest done or any of that. So that is step 5, putting those parts together. Step 6, I got to find the parts for that. And step 7 and 8 are going to be, oh wow. Step 7 is going to be fun, and I'm going to need a different brush for that for sure. Okay? Because it says there are 13 spikes, and you're applying, here we go, right there. 13 spikes, this step right there. You got to put those little red things in the 13 spikes. I knew it when I was doing it, so putting it together, this is going to be fun. Let me go ahead and get the parts that go on with this so I can figure out how to put the skirt together. And then I'll worry about his tail spikes on that. And then we'll get the upper legs done. In fact, I might jump to the upper legs in a few minutes. The upper legs only have 3 or 4 parts to them. They are not very bad. And I could have the upper legs together pretty quickly. It always has this one joint in the legs that worries me. And he had it in the other one too, but it held up somewhat good. All right, so let me find my parts. I'll be back in a bit, and I'll show you what happens while we do it. And I'll find those 13 red little spiky things. I know what bin they're in, and start putting them in all the spines. Back in a little while. All right, it took me a while to hunt down the 13 parts that got the tail spikes. I mean the red spikes, because one of them is on the tail from hell. Okay, this thing's got to be at least 2.5 to 3 feet long. And one of them goes right in there. So I'm going to start with that guy. So I can put this tail down and get it out of my lap. And we're going to test fit our red spike. And yep, it fits in there just perfect. And I'm going to work on the rest of these. I found the rest of the parts for the waist. So I have all those parts. I'm going to apply the glue to the part instead of the... Yeah. We're going to apply the glue to this. And we're going to slide it in there. Instead of putting the glue in the big part, we'll put it on the part that slides in. And then we have our first red spike in the fin. Okay? The rest of the tail spikes don't get that. And I'm not kidding when I say this thing is a good... I run into problems because of the camera mounts around here. It's a good 2.5 to 3 feet long. I'm not kidding with that. This tail is ginormous. Yeah, this is going to be something you're going to see when you walk in a room. You're going to notice it. It's way too big. Now, one of these needs some pretty good cleanup, so I'm going to get that done. And I have to clean up before I can put the spike in there, because the spike actually goes where the cleanup is. In there. And that's weird because, nope, they all printed that way. They all printed on that side down. Okay, now I probably should have used a cool plate instead of a texture plate, and then these surfaces would be smooth instead of, yeah, what they are. So let me go and get started on these. I'll be back in a bit. When that comes back, when I come back, I should be ready to take and almost finish my assembly for the waist. Okay, and that'll leave me the upper thighs, which are way down in here. They're step 19 and 21. They're step 19 and 21, and there's a part in 21 that worries me a lot. We'll talk about that when we get there, but I've already done half of the thigh problem. And yes, in the thigh there is a big black joint for the legs, and that is also going to be fun to deal with. And I'm not talking about fun as in, oh my gosh, it's going to die fun. No, I'm talking about literally it should be fun to put together because the parts are so big. All right, so I'm going to get after these red spikes. I will be back with an update in a bit.